Muammar Gaddafi, often referred to as the brother leader, ruled Libya with an iron fist for 42 years. His reign was marked by eccentric behavior, lavish displays of wealth, and a controversial approach to leadership that divided the world's opinion. Some admired his Pan-African vision and wealth redistribution policies, while others condemned him as a tyrant who ruled with fear and repression. However, by 2011, the winds of change brought on by the Arab Spring reached Libya, and the once unshakable leader was facing unprecedented opposition. As the rebels advanced, Gaddafi's days of control were numbered, leading to his eventual capture and death. The year 2011 saw widespread protests across the Middle East, and Libya was no exception. When rebellion broke out, Gaddafi responded with brutality, but his attempts to suppress the uprising only escalated the conflict. By mid-2011, rebel forces had gained control of most of the country, including the capital Tripoli. Gaddafi and his inner circle retreated to his hometown of Sirte, where he made his final stand. Hiding in a secret location in the southern part of the city, Gaddafi was isolated, cut off from much of the world, and surrounded by only a handful of loyalists. Despite the growing pressure, Gaddafi refused to flee the country, even as his trusted advisors urged him to escape. October 20th, 2011 was a critical day. Early in the morning, rebel forces had secured much of Sirte, leaving only pockets of resistance. Gaddafi's loyalists, aware that the end was near, scrambled to escape. But the plan was fraught with complications. A convoy of 25 vehicles was assembled, and Gaddafi hoped to make his way to the west, potentially escaping to Misrata. But the convoy was intercepted by NATO forces during a reconnaissance mission. A Royal Air Force Panavia Tornado, having intercepted a phone call made by Gaddafi, quickly targeted and destroyed the convoy. Within moments, NATO aircraft launched a series of strikes, obliterating most of the vehicles. The convoy split into smaller groups, and Gaddafi, along with his son Mutassim and a few loyal men, tried to escape on foot. The escape was short-lived. NATO's relentless airstrikes, combined with the rebel forces closing in, left Gaddafi and his remaining followers in a hopeless situation. As the hours passed, the chaos intensified. Mutassim Gaddafi, his son, was killed in a NATO airstrike, leaving Gaddafi more isolated than ever. The remaining loyalists took refuge in large drainage pipes, but the rebels soon found them. Despite firing back, Gaddafi's forces were outnumbered and outgunned. One of his guards sacrificed his life to protect Gaddafi by jumping on a grenade, but it was clear that the end was near. At noon, Gaddafi, wounded and in shock, was dragged out of the drainage pipe by rebel forces. Video footage from that moment showed him dazed and confused, struggling to comprehend the situation. The rebels, many of whom were shouting and demanding that he be kept alive, held him captive. However, just moments later, Gaddafi succumbed to his injuries. His death came swiftly after the cameras stopped rolling, suggesting that the rebel forces may have executed him once the media attention had subsided. The aftermath of Gaddafi's capture and death left the world with more questions than answers. The initial reports indicated that he died from bullet wounds after his vehicle was caught in crossfire, but eyewitnesses suggested that he had been shot at close range. Videos of his body being paraded through the streets of Sirte soon emerged, fueling further speculation. The new Libyan authorities, led by the National Transitional Council, NTC, claimed that Gaddafi's body would be returned to his family for a secret burial, but the Misrata Military Council overruled this, opting to bury him immediately. His body was eventually buried in the desert, with only a handful of people ever seeing the final resting place of the once dominant leader. Gaddafi's death was not just the end of a tyrant, but the beginning of a new chapter for Libya, though one that would be marked by instability and conflict. NATO's intervention, which had initially been justified by the need to protect civilians, set in motion a series of events that would lead to Libya's current fragmented state. While Gaddafi's rule was brutal, his downfall brought no peace. The country descended into a civil war that left it divided into factions, each vying for control, while the economy and infrastructure deteriorated. Libya's once promising future, under Gaddafi's grand plans, seemed to unravel after his fall. In the years following Gaddafi's death, Libya struggled to find its footing. The dream of a united, prosperous Africa a vision Gaddafi had championed for decades, was left unfulfilled. Despite providing free healthcare, education, and housing for Libyans, Gaddafi's reign was marred by authoritarianism, repression, and corruption. Today, Libya remains in turmoil, with no central government, a struggling economy, and ongoing conflict. The lessons of Gaddafi's rule and the consequences of his downfall are still playing out, as the country grapples with the legacy of a leader who promised much, but left a nation in chaos. The story of Muammar Gaddafi's last days is one of betrayal, desperation, and a tragic end for a leader who once ruled with absolute power. His reign, filled with contradictions, left a mark on Libya and Africa as a whole. Yet, in the end, the fall of Gaddafi was not just the fall of a dictator. It was the collapse of a regime and the unraveling of a vision that promised so much, but delivered so little.